The world has a structure, an order, a plan. The world makes sense for any human. There are no exceptions, no discontinuities.
Only some experts dreaming complexities. The reason is physical, based on the real. Not something abstract, that exists just as feel. The reason is physical, based on the real. Those that discover the pieces, we honor and bless them. Those that confuse us, remind us the lesson. The masters are not perfect. They are not God. The masters just focus, along as they plod.
We stand on their shoulders, their tools we employ. Knowing the struggles, and focus, are part of the joy.
Mendeleev saw the right path. Following from footsteps, as Newton hath.
Truth cares not your color, your gender, or not. Noether and Curie proved, truth only sought. Our knowing's not done, but what we have now, the masters have taught us a step by step how.
Chemistry is math, all counts one as the units. Without knowing the reason, that Russian intuits. The elements are different, but related the same. The number of protons, the unit to blame.
Yet, the proton proof would not come till Rutherford's fame. Mendeleev knew more was in store. He predicted gallium, scandium, and more.
Instead of a mess, one needs to discern what makes the rose end, and then to return. The patterns of 2, 8, 18, and 32, its basis is not clear, from what I knew. The pattern is based first upon 2. The logic of pairs from Pauli flew.
Yet, with the equations exact, yet abstract. The geometry lost, I now will extract.
The nature of magnets mix strong and the weak. Knowing their vectors, the answer we seek.
All magnets apply as a push and a pull. Your theory's a mess, just bunches of bull.
But in tiny distances, particles act. The structure is different, not quantum abstract. The pull is so strong from neutrons it holds protons together, which otherwise explodes. At field distance, strong push is so light, it leaves electrons to fight. Settling places to stay, in layers, arrays.
The counts defined by geometry. Everything fits with full continuity. Together those strong and weak, to refine, and to the static magnet, so I define. The strong is the push, iron filings display. At an equator that wide, where those electrons will stay. The weak towards the axis, scrunch the set, makes the poles a place of inset.
It's not EM, as your textbook will seek.
But knowing the mix of the strong and the weak. Strong force, it makes the nucleus sardine. Holding the protons, only neutrons between. Pauli and Dirac with the math so correct, yet with all that thinking, hemispheres, they neglect.
The basics of shells is simple and free. The force over squared is Es to b. Yet, strong over cubed, magnetics they are. So, magnets are lost when looking afar. Yet, the magnet math exponent power abounds. 1 over cubed, repulsion towards 0 distance rebounds. The 1 over cubed becomes push, as infinity cubed. Es is infinity squared, then fully subdued. The electron then sits at the distance of Bohr. Pull by the squares when distance is more. Yet, net by the magic drifting inside, the larger O cubed pushed back in stride. Never falling to nucleus by distance cubed. The reason for shells is hereby imbued.
The brilliance of Planck's already occurred. Yet only with this concept, restored and referred, That greatness of Planck had been forgotten, replaced with non-existence, particle probabilities that I think is rotten.
That's not what we teach, we do not relate. Pians are told shut up, calculate.
So, how there is structure for the element table. How each of the subshells, now, we enable. The system is set by those three dimensions. Angles that fit, which are not found in abstractions. The axis becomes the hemisphere paired, two more dimensions are pier than squared. Yet, from that structure a row it places, until half and the layers the set interlaces. The system is set by the twos and the squares. Each of the structures, truly built Pauli pairs. So, e to 2 nuclei held to the Bohr electrostrong they start. Electrostatic electrons push, like kind apart.
Calculating the combo gets electronegativity. Checking the table gets answer positivity.
I fell asleep, so abstract the Weber's talks. Now, hemispheres are the better building blocks. Molecules are lock-in structures. Rotation energy blocks bonding, a gas state assures.
The math is so fun for the nerd in us all. The 2, 8, and more by Pauli's Hemi do fall. Then 1, 4, and 9, and then 16. Are 1, 2, 3 square with nothing between.
The reason is physical, based on the real. The fun of the squares makes the subshells become x plus 1, squared, adds, 2x plus 1, so, subshells are odd, yet square by the sum. 1, 3, 5 and 7. Having double math fun. Oh. 1 and 3 is 4, the square of 2. I learned how your pattern is true. 1, 3, and 5 is 9, the square of 3. Now, you've got me. I see what you see.
The structure is abstract, there's not conflict. I told you already, that's off bow so strict. Yet where does it go, what does that know? If not done by textbook, people shouldn't follow. Your sticking to 3D mechanics is hard to swallow. Science is abstract, not Piaget. Strings of unknown dimensions are our only way.
Aufbauregeln became too strict. Your abstract theories won't do the trick. They lack 3D deflections, with too many electron configuration exceptions.
The reason is physical, based on the real.
Hemispheres are clear to generate the 2, and layers of odds bring 2 more dimensions by squares. But how that works with somebody's eye. Back to the pyramid of 1, 3, and 5. 1 built on 3 is so 3D stable, you see. That tetrahedron, remember, will revive, a cube by the half a tetra will drive. Yet, cubes of 8, get poles always scrunched. By weak and strong force, is how I hunched. So, P gets outside, angle easy to me, but what about D, and then there's that F. Those sets of the odds, now do interlace. The pictures of electrons, so polar embrace.
All this causes, quantum numbers amount. The first is the layer, the shell by the count. The second the angle equator, behold, that starts with a 0 because that's at the poles. The third the count around latitude spaced. Yet half of them settle upon the other space. The hemisphere fourth not a 1 count. It's half for the energy, limited amounts.
Simple words describe the quantum complex. No need for abstracts, that would you vex.
The reason is physical, based on the real.
On paper with rows, equations confuse. Yet, really it's half shells that really amuse. Discovered before, the details were there. Taught without physical structure aware. Anyone can understand. Anyone can chemically plan. The reason is physical, based on the real.
The subshells are built in an angle by growing. The zero shell is easy, the zero angle knowing. The number of shells limits subshell sets. The formula, n+1/2 begets. The zeroth one is always at each pole. The p first settle pyramids at the end cap its roll. The second sets fives found, on the outside, settling off axis, upper angles astride.
Yet, each of these is subshell set jumps by 4. Those subshells are complete only full sets more. The 2 and 6, 10 and 14. Yet, all the exceptions happen between. The challenge is finding them given the halves. The other evens by adding the s, so 8 gets from 2 plus 6. When you needs even counts, only full sets you mix.
That structure is fine. I follow that line. I told you already it's Aufbau so strict. If not done by textbook, people shouldn't follow. Your sticking to 3D mechanics is hard to swallow.
Chem tables have properties all can you know. Electricity has where those particles flow. Magnetism fields with a shape. States of matter by temperature takes. Spectrum and energy explanation, you'll know. Bonding and angles for crystals that grow. What makes the columns so unique? Why the structure gives those properties we seek. The rows are the shells, the layers in mass. Around latitude subshell sets where electrons repassed. Yet, electrons column angles the properties grouped. Those positions have powers hereto unknown.
The common half cube, the pyramid by 4, upon which carbon organic chemicals chain more.
What's new is those, in caps, at column 8. Where Pauli's 2, and a pyramid mate. Allowing inner layers get extra spectrum lines, but lines disappear by off-axis shading at column 9. After that, electron angles, not end-cap spot. The entire inner layers, gets shaded a lot. That textbook says that subshell D partials, it flies. Yet, the spectrum fact says your textbook lies. The truth is that only full rule, not exception applies. The column 8 locked both S and P, it not prize. 2 in caps of 4, also explains, the combo of magnetism permanent strain. Each particle has duopole, magnet axis line, so, the n-cap models helps keep them aligned. While SP at column 8, aligns, as you say, but those column 12 subshells off-axis block magnets array. The evidence of no column 12 magnetism follows, the 3D mechanics of those mag electron halos. That column 12 doth subshell D applies. That only full subshells make the post-Aufbau rule arise. That 1 and 5, thus Pauli hemisphere 2 and 10. And only full subshells where Aufbau tends. Layers 2 and 3, scrunched cube apply. Not enough electrons, so partials and inner angle applies. With electrons exceptions, oxygen and nitrogen, not Pauli's half, but half filled in opposite hemi each end. Shell 2, column 4, are special both half-filled, in opposite hemispheres. Leaving those elitist eyes rolling and in tears. Layer 4, 5, 6 and more, position by full subshells geometry store.
Replacing Lewis dot diagram rectangle 8, with geophysical sets the easily mate. Electricity falls in column 11. Band gap requires a transitional set of them. Equator electrons set up to 3. At the equator settling B. A set of electrons in band gap set are furthest from the magnet. That electron movement comes with ease, both distance and angle gets them free. The structure gets built from the pole to equator, but interim structures odds and the steps. Yet, 2 held at the poles there not always be. Not S, then SD, but S, S plus P, until finally SD. Chemistry no partial subshells rule, except row 2 and at the ends. The 1 and 17 are incomplete to append. Extra electron to grab, if needs the 1. 1 to ion eject, if standing alone. Partials appears in places, quite plain. The ion and cation so here to explain. Outermost electrons ion limited to 3. Electron configurations only by releasing full subshells B. The element gets built in only full subshell sets. When 2 times those odds, plus equator 3, met. Most of the structures, not Aufbau at all. The secrets in the physical model.
That chemistry Nobel Prize awaits, finding causes for those electron exception traits.
The reason is physical, based on the real. How do you do it? Your views are so unique. How do you handle the elite's harsh critique? They seem so assured with word after word. They have all the confidence, including the absurd. They seem so much smarter, with those fancy words I'd given into accepting all their turds. I lived in their shadow, for too many years. I would take your path, but for those fears.
I'm not that much different than you. The new takes the mind's effort, yes, that's true. The plotting, the patience, that's honorable and good, that character's built having stood where we stood. Your path and mine are somehow the same. When the climbs and the goals stay real, that's the same. The end is not justified by morals abstract. You and I together, will get there safely, our minds still intact. One does not order the universe by law. Their lack of respect for God is their flaw. Believe me or not. You'll figure it out. One needs your brain, understanding and all. I trust your mind and your character. Be you. That's all. Never turn off your brain. All choices are yours, not theirs, or even mine. Challenge my ideas.